This is the Inclusion Conversation. I'm your host, Grace Young Foster, founder and CEO of the Inclusion Initiative. I'm an adoptee, I'm a foster care alum, and I'm passionate about elevating our communities. It's time we're included and visible in the conversations about work, careers, and just life. Let's be visible and let's be loud. Join me now. Hey, everyone. Welcome to the Inclusion Conversation, our Christmas special. It's so great to have all of you with us, and it's really great to have all my guests with us. Hello, everybody. Anna, Leanne, and Christine, how are you? Thanks for joining us. Yes, everyone's giving a thumbs up, and yeah, everyone's excited to be here. And so what is special about this Christmas special episode is that we are in conversation today as for Korean, transracial, and transnational adoptees. So this is a really special group. We've become really good friends just through our connections, being adoptees and being, like, frankly, kick-ass women. And it's been just amazing getting to know each of you individually. So I'm really thrilled to have this group conversation. So for our audience, to start us off, why don't we just introduce ourselves a little bit, your name and anything you want the audience to know about you and what you do. And I will skip myself because this is my podcast. The audience knows who I am. So Anna, why don't you go?
So I'm Anna Baeten. I'm very excited to be here with you ladies. I have a company called The Human Solution. We are a leadership and culture training and strategy organization. I am in Michigan, so I'm a Midwesterner. We are kind of all over the country, so that's interesting. Should I talk for it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Somebody else? Okay, how about Leanne?
Sure, happy to tap in here. Hi, everyone. I'm Anne Harper. I'm the co-founder of Unlock, and my partners and I are obsessed with converting casual connections into genuine relationships. So we're building a tech-enabled trust economy. And I grew up, I'll tell more about my personal story later. Prior to this, I spent 20 years in corporate America and growing and scaling companies.
Amazing.
Christine.
Leanne, I still can't believe you're not a broadcaster.
Side hustle.
Right, exactly. Christine Sachs. I am in lovely Manhattan. Let's see. I am an executive coach in private practice, and I have a 14-year-old who made her television or streaming debut in Star Wars Skeleton Crew on December 2nd. So it was very exciting.
Yes.
Come on, it's like I'm cool, but my daughter's already like more cool.
Oh,
I love it.
Yeah.
Love that. Yes. So, like I mentioned, we are all Korean adoptees. And I think it would be really interesting for our audience to hear a little bit about each of your stories. I can kick us off. So, for those of you that don't know much about my story, I was, as far as I know, I was orphaned in South Korea at about the age of 3, and I lived in 2 orphanages in Korea, came to the US when I was about 5, was placed in a home for adoption, and then ended up being relinquished from that home 2 years later and put in the foster care system. Was put into a foster home and then eventually adopted into a family of nearly 20 adoptive and foster kids. And it was just a wild ride. And throughout my whole life, I did grow up in the Midwest, and I just had very difficult experiences of really understanding who I am and where I belonged, because I never felt like I could belong anywhere. I wasn't quite Asian enough. I grew up in a white community with white parents. I wasn't quite white enough. And, the multiple just relinquishments and the moving around and never really having a stable family to call my own. It just, exasperated those feelings. And fast forward, built a career first in corporate sales and then in the nonprofit space. And now I've built a family and I have a beautiful 3-year-old little girl, and decided to launch the Inclusion Initiative because of just my whole lived experience, but also this community I was seeing that lacked a network, first of all, of people who are like us with our lived experiences that could support each other, but also just resources and opportunities to wealth build and, become the people that we want to be and the professionals that we want to be. And so the Inclusion Initiative was born. And so that's a little bit about my story. And I'll pass it to you, Leanne.
Great. And yes, so proud of the journey that you've been on, and so fun to have a front row seat for it. You're really remarkable, Grace. And okay, so my story, similar to Grace's, I don't know the exact details, but I was apparently found orphaned or abandoned, I'm not sure, as a baby in Seoul. I was estimated to be about 14 months old, and I was placed in the foster care system in Korea. So I was with a foster family for about 1.5 years, and then I was adopted to a young liberal white couple who lived in the suburbs of New Jersey. So I flew halfway around the world, and that set me on a course where I had a lot of blue frosted eyeliner and big perms. But needless to say, I'm actually the oldest of 5 adopted children. I was the first to be adopted. And then 3 years later, my parents adopted another Korean boy. And then 5 years after that, they adopted 3 Puerto Rican brothers who are biological siblings of each other. So we instantly became a family of 7. So we were very conspicuous everywhere we went. And I would say that it was very obvious that I was never going to blend in or be a wallflower. We're so conspicuous visually. And so I decided that if I was going to have to stand out, it would be for the right reasons. And that put me on a course to be a, perfectionist, high achieving, people pleasing, type A overachiever, all that stuff. And was very fortunate that that was the dysfunctional path that I took, because as I've done the work to untether those dysfunctional things that no longer serve me, I have total compassion for myself for why I made those choices, or I don't even know that I knew I was making them at the time. But I've really appreciated that I happened to choose a path that positioned me to be very successful professionally. And so I have the resources and the community and connections to actually unpack all of this stuff and make sense of it with a lot of support and love and care. So I'm fortunate in that regard. And more to the story later, but I'm actually estranged from my part of my family now. And I can't wait to share more about Christmas memories, because this is a really, special time of year for me.
Thanks, Leanne. How about you, Christine?
Well, knowing all of you, I know that our origin stories are fairly similar in terms of being foundlings and adopted into white families and whatnot. I think that the thing that I want to share that's unique is, I hemmed and hawed about having a biological child for a long time. Because I was like, I don't know, and what if I'm a terrible mom, and what if I'm not going to like them because I have this weird latent self-rejection thing that I'm projecting, and then of course I couldn't get pregnant, so the universe has a sense of humor. But really lucky, and of course because the universe has a sense of humor, I ended up having a girl. But what I was really, or what's the thing that really fascinates me now is really being able to see what's genetic and what's environmental, because it's when everything is environmental for you, to see stuff that's genetic is a little bit of a strange situation. And I think that when it comes to transracial adoptees, you often you often hear the stories of like Black kids adopted by white families and not being able to know how to take care of their hair and not being knowing how to take care of their skin and the culture and everything. I think that for other transracial adoptees, there's a similar experience. Like my daughter, I didn't know how to take care of her hair. I still don't know how to take care of her hair. And you know, she has like, standard Asian hair, but it's interesting because uh, my adopted mother's hair is very different. She's a nice white blonde lady. And so like really having to figure it out through her has been through my daughter has been a really interesting growth and self-love practice for myself because I have to kind of figure that out while also try and imbue healthy experiences, which is how this all ties into the holidays, right? Because it's there's the identity of being white, there's the identity of being American, and then there's sort of like, I mean, not that any of us, I think, feel like it, but we're all technically immigrants. And so what does it mean to have these kinds of holidays, but not really being connected to who we are in the space of them because they're not really ours? I mean, they are, but they're not. So sort of thinking about that, as I had a child was a really interesting trip. Leanne, no, Anna.
So my adoption story is I'm also, I think maybe to give a little bit of a reference too, we should say like about how old we are because I think it's different for different ages of people. So right, so I'm 45 years old, and so when I was adopted, it was still like we were still delivering babies in airplanes from Korea, which I know for some of us that was the case. I actually was not a foundling. I was 2.5-ish when I was adopted, and I was adopted as a sibling set. So my like rough story, I mean, you get very little information, but essentially my parents were married. They had me and my father passed away. And then as I'm sure a lot of us know, right, the culture in Korea is very, very misogynistic and it's very difficult to be a woman there, particularly a single woman. So I can only imagine what that experience was like for my mother. But she ended up getting into a relationship, supposedly with a man that she worked with, who evidently was not a great person or man, or it didn't end up working out, and she was estranged from her family. And so when my brother was born, and we're almost exactly 2 years apart. When my brother was born, we went to the orphanage. So he went directly from the hospital to the orphanage. But I did live with my mother and evidently my stepfather for 2 years before, but I have no memory of that. So, and then we were adopted to a white family in Michigan as a sibling set. And interestingly, too, my adoptive family is like a first generation immigrant family, Eastern European. So that immigrant experience is, sort of in my identity sort of feeling or how I affiliate with different things sort of in spaces in, diversity spaces is I've always identified more with the immigrant experience than potentially with, the Black experience or the, any of those other things, I think, because one, I am an immigrant, but also two, because I grew up in a white household, but essentially a white immigrant household. That's really sort of shaped a lot of how I ended up.
Wow. I actually don't know if I knew that, Anna. Thank you for sharing that. That is a very unique experience. And so, thinking about just, our stories of how we came into our families, identifying as immigrants, and just, our whole adoption experience in general and how we navigate the world. It's interesting when we come upon the holiday season because there's so much complexity around it. Yet it's invisible to the outside world, right? Like, and we externally we're showing like, oh yeah, we love the holidays and it's so fun, and yes, we're crazy busy and all this stuff, just like everyone else. But I know for me as an adoptee with a very complicated adoption history, in fact, my adoption that actually went through, it ended up becoming a broken adoption because I too am estranged from that family. Leanne, I know that you talked about that a little bit. And it just is really hard to have to navigate and hold all that inside, because externally, right, we're supposed to be the grateful adoptees, the happy adoptees that got our happily ever after. And it's really hard for the rest of the world to hear that actually there was a lot of turmoil and heartache, and we're sad around this time for many reasons. Even if we have wonderful experiences with the families we're placed into, we're still mourning the loss of our birth families, of our birth countries, of our culture, heritage, and yet, it's complicated because we can't talk about it. So, when it comes to especially Christmas, it's complicated, and I'll speak for myself because I have wonderful memories of Christmas. I love Christmas. I love it. And I love building memories for my kid now. And I feel really fortunate to be able to do that as an adoptee, to have a birth child that I can do this for. And yet I'm sad by the holiday because it's a daily reminder during the season of what I lost and what I don't have as well, in terms of family and connection and home and all of that. And so I wanted us to talk together. I think it would be really interesting for each of us to share what is hard about this season for you as an adoptee, but also, right, the contrast of why is it also such a joyful time for you? And I'll let you stew on that for just a second, but then maybe Leanne, maybe you can start us off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that because, and it's not just unique to Korean American adoptees and, white families, but both things can be so strongly true at the same time. This is my favorite time of the year as well. Because I was in New Jersey, I grew up with those like winter wonderland types of Christmases where we'd peek out of the windows and hope that it would snow and they'd call off school. And it was a time of delicious food cooking in the house. My grandparents, who were like the ideal quintessential grandparents, they would come out every year from California to New Jersey with their motorhome parked out front. They would stay with us from Halloween through New Year's. And so I already had a big family, but that really felt like family. And it just felt very safe, and like all of the things and the experiences. I loved singing Christmas carols. I would play the piano and we would all gather around like some kind of like Partridge Family or something. And actually, so for me, it's simultaneously extremely bittersweet or melancholy for me for two reasons. One, a lot of people have lost around this time of year of family members. And as you said, people are really not that comfortable making space or holding space for other people's grief. And so they tend to kind of like just give you a very wide berth to like kind of hands off during those times. But my Nana, I can just hear so clearly her singing Silent Night. That was her favorite Christmas carol. And so I always think of her loss, the loss of my grandparents during that time. And then also, of course, there is that being estranged from my family means that I have a wonderful family of friends, family by choice. I'm really fortunate, and I do have some extended family that I'm in touch with, and I have some relationships with some members of my family, but it definitely means that family holidays and family get-togethers are out of the question. And so, again, keeping on that brave face, but really feeling that ache and the lack and the otheringness of it, the outsiderness of it. Especially when you have an estrangement, because when you've been orphaned or relinquished, I think everybody on some primal level has some abandonment issues, but our abandonment issues are totally legitimate because we have lived and survived that experience. So, so then to be estranged again is like to really compound that, wound. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I'll stop there, but yeah, it is a very interesting and complex tension. But I don't let it steal my joy. I just let myself have all the feelings now.
Thanks for sharing, Leanne. Anna, you maybe want to share?
Sure, absolutely. So I also have very fond memories of Christmas from when I was a child. My brother and I always say that he always kind of jokes that like there's like real Koreans and then there's Polish Koreans because we're Polish Koreans because like all of our familial traditions are Polish. So like which is like really interesting and funny. But so all of the Christmas traditions that I really love and remember are like Polish Christmas traditions, right? Like so, like the food that we eat and the like all of the different things. Yeah, I feel I have a very lovely relationship with my family now. It was not always the case. I did also, like Leanne, go through a period of estrangement, a 10-year period of estrangement, and now we have reconnected as and have a very nice relationship. I think that I describe it as lovely and also sort of cautious, right? Like everybody is grateful to be present in each other's orbit, but it's also just sort of careful, right? And I think that I appreciate that. I mean, honestly, I do. I really honestly think too that it's careful in the sense that it's sort of the ball is in my court too, right? So I think that it's all very spacious. And I would say that I have now as an adult human, I have kind of ambivalent feelings about the holidays. I feel, I mean, ambivalent is sort of the word. I mean, I think that it is, we were, my children are almost 16 and almost 13. And, we can have all other conversations about being adoptees that have children, because I think that's like probably a whole nother series of podcast things that we could talk about. But I was actually just at a meeting today and I was like, and I actually feel a lot of relief that like my children are older now, and I feel like the pressure to create magic is much less now, right? Because I think that when they were little, I felt so much with pressure or responsibility to like make magic happen for them around the holidays because I wanted them so much to have
100%. Yeah.
these memories and like this experience. And I think I'm so grateful that I did that. And I'm grateful that we have enough privilege and love around us that was able to happen. But I do think that it felt very burdened. It was work, right? Like it felt like a lot of work, right? And so my children still love Christmas, but because of their ages, it's so much different, right? Like they give me a PowerPoint presentation with links to the things that they want. And, and they're just delighted and thrilled that they get the exact pair of very expensive pants that they want. And that's so much easier than trying to like imagine in my mind what magical feels like or looks like and, all of the different things. And so, so it feels actually sort of like less easier, sort of more casual, I think, in a way that I have not a lot of judgment around at this exact moment. Like, I don't know if that feels good or bad or just is, or, that's kind of where I'm sitting right now in like this particular holiday.
Yeah. Thank you, Anna. What about you, Christine?
Yeah, I think and I just want to say thanks for everybody shares. It's like, it's so interesting because, we're not a monolith as adoptees. And so it's a cool thing to hear, I think, although I've had some pretty big fights, I've never been estranged from my adopted family. What I will say is, the process or my relationship with holidays is always changing. When I was a kid, I I love everybody. Most kids love Christmas because you get shit, right? You get
Yeah.
it's like lots of food. It's like no school, like all the stuff. And I think that although I enjoyed it, there was always I didn't have language for it until now as an adult, and I was hearing everybody else's story.
Mm.
There was always a sense of um, desperate gratitude or obligatory gratitude because there was a lingering sense that if I wasn't grateful enough, this could all go away. Because even though I don't remember being abandoned as a 6-week old, it had happened, right? I
Yeah.
knew the possibility existed. Um, so it was great. And there was all these feelings, and as an adult, how I know I've done my job in terms of healing myself, but also uh becoming the parent that I want to be is that my daughter loves the holidays. Like she is like a Christmas stan. She is playing Mariah Carey the moment October 1st hits. Like it's a whole thing. And I find it a little bit hard to be with because this idea of obligatory gratitude is so baked into me. I'm like, would a thank you hurt? Will it break your soul just to say thank you? And then like I know she's grateful and I know she appreciates me as a parent and the holidays and everything that we do, but it's a lot of like the entitlement of my peers
Yeah.
and other families that haven't necessarily had the same kind of experience. Now, and I would say that I probably have more in common with kids that come from poverty or immigrant kids who come to this country and are like, what the hell is Christmas? Or even Jewish kids who are like, why are we lying to children? Like the whole thing. Uh, so yeah, so that I mean, so it's so I'm slowly creating the holiday into something that I want it to be. And, there's stuff that's just baked in that I'm like the holidays are just constantly a growing edge.
Yeah. Thank you for that reflection, Christine. It's really important to call that out. That obligatory gratitude that we feel is so real, and it does impact for sure. And so this next question, I want it to be kind of an open conversation amongst all of us. And this is a really special question because the question is, what are holiday memories that are really important to you? And what are some memories/traditions that you want your kids or your loved ones to now create with you around Christmas? And like, why is that meaningful? And it's a special question because very often we as adoptees, especially growing up, we're never asked what we want. We're not really asked, did you want this? And it's a hard question to answer, right? Because of course we're very grateful to have been placed into places where we could thrive and grow and be humans and all of that. But we were never asked, like, do you want to be ripped from Korea? Do you want to be ripped from your birth parents? Do you want to be placed into this strange home, strange community with people that don't look like you? So for me, it's special during, especially this season, to be able to ask myself, well, what do I want? What memories, traditions do I want to make that, yeah, maybe they were a part of the traditions growing up, but maybe they're not. And I just find that really empowering for myself. And so, with me and my little 3-year-old, it's very important to me to create some traditions that are ours, that don't have ties to anything except for to us. And so with her right now, what we're practicing is giving back to the community. It seems really like cliche during this time of year, but it's very interesting because I grew up in a home where, not that they were bad, they were, well-meaning people and all of that, and religious and everything. But we never like actively did anything to like give back to the community during this time of year. And I spent the last 10 years in the nonprofit space and serving under-resourced people. And so for me, that's really important to build that with my daughter and start instilling like that kind of not only the value set, but just like the memories of, hey, my mom, dad, and I, we went out and we gave back to our community during this time of year. So that's one special thing that we do that I just, for me, it's a privilege to be able to build that kind of memory and tradition with her.
It's such a like I get the double whammy because my birthday is 3 days before Christmas. So in terms of what do you want, I'm like, oh, what am I? So it's always it's always a thing, but I don't have an answer to that yet. So I wanted to throw that.
I'm happy to jump in. So I actually thought I was going to share a memory that, a tradition that's important to me related to my Nana again, because that was just like the purest form of love. And she's this little 4'10" Portuguese woman with just like, the softest, prettiest smelling skin. And, but what you just shared, Grace, reminded me of something that my parents did for us as well, which is usually always starting around the holidays, because Thanksgiving in particular is like about gratitude and sharing abundance. My parents were very active in the community in service and activism. I literally remember like being on my dad's shoulders, picketing on behalf of farm workers' rights at, maybe 3 or 4. But every holiday season, we would donate our time to serve homeless people at the church. And I kind of got away from that, but then, so I don't have any biological children, but I always say I've mothered many, some involuntarily or unwillingly. But but having so many nieces and nephews, and really because this time of year is so special to me, I love being really thoughtful. Gifts are one of my love languages too. So I really prided myself on that, but I realized I was like spending a lot of money that really didn't have a lot of meaning or impact really for my nieces and nephews. And so I was reminded of my childhood tradition and kind of re-adopted my own version of it, which is I used that money I would have normally spent to buy them gifts that they were going to forget about in 10 minutes. And started just making personal like homeless care packages because of what we were talking about. It's just such a hard time to be alone or struggling. And I thought just one simple gesture of like helping someone feel seen and cared for. And I literally just drive around with those in my trunk during the holiday season and would hand them out. So that's a tradition that's really meaningful to me, just to kind of keep that thread alive.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
That's really great.
I guess I can share, I guess. I am like, and this is something that I think that, we're always grappling in the world of we're trying to figure out, is it, are we accepting the things about ourselves? Are we curious about what they mean in the world? I'm a pretty decidedly unsentimental person. And, and that is, it's a thing, right? Like it's an interesting thing. Like, I think that one of the things that came up for me when you were talking, Grace, is that like in my set of core values, if you've ever done like your own, you do these like sets of core values, like my top core value is agency. And I'm sure that is impacted by my lived experience, right? And it's about allowing people to choose, right? So allowing people to choose what path they want to take, and what they want to do, and sort of part of like how that plays itself out in my life and in my professional life and my personal life is, like I really feel like part of our job as responsible ethical humans is to be as as clear as possible about what the choices are, right? Like, and so that we can, create clarity, and then people get to choose. And so I think that the way that translates to holiday traditions for us is that, again, like when my children were littler, yeah, we did all of the things. We did all of the stuff. And I'm not really super tied to the necessarily that all those things come through. What I am tied to is that we choose together what we're going to do, right? That we choose, that we have a conversation together around those things. And that they, sort of are a part of that process, right? Is sort of like what feels important to them, what do they want to do, which things are, feel like they'd be fun for them. And sometimes, I mean, we're a family full of introverts. Sometimes that means just like hibernating, right? They're like, can we just hibernate? Can we do that? So like it's interesting too, I think, just because of like the phase of life that I'm in right now, but also the phase of life that my children are in, and they're sort of, youngish teenagers, and that's a big transition about like what's important and valuable to them. We do all the things like we make sure we see all of the humans, but I've never been tied to like what day that happens or things like that. I'd say like my siblings are only now starting to release some of their hold on like that we have to do things a certain, like we must do it on this day because now they have children, right? And so like the complexity, it's not just about being an adoptee, it's the complexity about being a human that's interconnected with lots of different humans in the world, right? And I was like, this year we historically have always celebrated with my family on Christmas Eve. My brother this year he lives in Connecticut and has always had to travel. He's got littles. And he was like, they've never had Christmas Day in their own house. So they're going to do Christmas Day and then we're going to do Christmas on the weekend, right? And we just get to shuffle the days around. And to me, I actually think that that's amazing, right? Like that to me, because it's like very aligned for me, right? It's like, I love that we can like figure it out, right? That does not feel mournful to me at all. And I know that that's not necessarily always the response for people. So if that makes sense, right? Like I like that we can change how it is to make sure that it serves everybody, kind of for where they are.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's awesome, actually. I think more people should feel comfortable doing that. And
Yeah,
again,
and it's important to me that we see everybody. I mean, it's important to me that we see everybody. It's important. I don't care when. I don't care. You know what I mean? I really don't. Like, and I think that that's real. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we always are like trying to backtrack. I was like, is that real, or is that like so you sit with it and you're like, no, I actually think that's real. Like, you're like, how does that feel in my body? Am I just saying that it's okay, but it's not okay? No, I think it's actually okay. like,
Yeah, I think it's funny. The core value thing is an interesting question. There are things that we do at Christmas and the holidays, I think mostly for other people, at least our little nuclear family.
Mhm.
I would say that the strongest traditions actually live outside of like this particular holiday season, because so much of this, I mean, it's so one of the, I think one of our family's core values. I don't know that any of us would have said that this is an individual core value, but I think one of our family's core value is expression.
Mm.
So, like, even though my daughter won't admit, her actual favorite holiday is Halloween, because she gets to dress up, she gets just to live this her freak flag and just go all out. Right? And with my birthday being so close to Christmas, right? There's often feels like a one day is for me and one day is for other people, right? Um, and even for my husband, right? Like his birthday is about him. So I think that although we have routines, we do this thing, we go, we have Chinese food for Christmas Eve, we go to my family on Christmas, we go to this particular restaurant that's my husband's been going to for 25 years for New Year's Eve. Like we have a series of things that we do, but I think the actual tradition is an experience of feeling seen, heard, and expressed. I don't know, it's super deep.
yeah, it was good though.
Give presents, give presents.
That was really good. I love that, Christine. I love that. Well, let's pivot to like a really fun portion of our episode today. which is, are you ready for it? Rapid fire questions.
Bring it on.
And I'm going to ask 5, and you just like answer the first thing that comes to your head. All right. And it'll help us all get to know each other a little bit better, actually. So it'll be fun. Okay. So first question, and I'll answer first. Favorite food for the holidays? Oh gosh, I would say Christmas cookies for me.
Booze.
Booze. Booze for Christine. Leanne.
I want to say like those Rice Krispie treats made into like those little wreaths, but they're like made with cornflakes. You know what I'm talking about? The ones that
they're green. Yeah.
Yeah. And like you can tell it's like a crime scene, everybody who's eating them. Yeah.
Yes, I love it. We do for Christmas Eve, and I just was like, I'm not sentimental at all, blah, blah, blah. But I do love, so my mom makes borscht, which is like beet soup. It's like the beet Polish, and I love it. And she only makes it on Christmas Eve. So it's like, I think that the Polish and the Koreans both have a love of cabbage. So it's like a cabbage beet soup, right? Like and I love it. And we only eat it on Christmas Eve. I would eat it all the time, but
she only makes it on Christmas Eve. So, okay. What's your superpower as an adoptee? I would say mine is having a bigger perspective. Like I feel like I have a bigger worldview as an adoptee who has my lived experience.
Mine's similar, I think. So I think that I very easily dissociate. So and I don't say that in like a super negative way necessarily. So I think that like in my work, like I generally don't take things personally. It's very easy for me to like literally zoom up out of a situation and look at it from lots of different angles. And I think that literally is because I am like very, very functional as dissociated.
Wow. All right, Anna, that was interesting. Leanne.
I think mine is, after decades of like people pleasing, you finally hone this intuition, but it's really like maybe being an empath and being able to read other people and the dynamics and what it takes to, optimize whatever situation you're in. But so really like being able to connect and read people and their energy, I think.
Oh yeah, I would agree with that for you, Leanne. What about you, Christine?
Adaptability from unattachment.
So it's similar to Anna. Wow. Okay. What did you dream of doing when you were a kid? I can share mine. I wanted to be like this really prolific artist. Like I am very good at drawing and painting, and I thought that I would do that. And I went to school for that for my first year, and surprise, did not work out. But yeah, that's what I wanted to be as a kid. What about you, Anna?
I actually have never known what I wanted to be when I grew up, and that's true now too. Like I feel like I still don't really know what I want to be when I grow up. I actually do remember having like really pointed almost jealousy from a very young age of people who did know, right? Who were like, I know that, blah, blah, like had like passion to one thing, like it would be so easy to just be like, I'm very good at this thing and not good at other things. And this is what I'm supposed to do. And like to have that kind of clarity has always been like really amazing to me and like something to be jealous of. Like, generalist, born a generalist, die a generalist.
Oh, I'm sad for little Anna. Okay. What about you, Leanne?
Same. I have the same answer.
Oh, you do too, Christine? Okay. Oh, sad for little Christine and little Anna. Oh.
I think it's also maybe just I don't know if it's generational, but I think we were also raised at a time when you were promoted like this concept of being well-rounded. So you're supposed to actually be like multidisciplinary, multi-gifted. So it was harder to know like what one lane. But for me, I actually just remembered that When I was younger, I used to love to sing. I played the piano. I would sing. I'm like all the show tunes and the sappy ballads. I would not sing into a hairbrush. I would give acceptance speeches for awards I was winning.
Wow.
I'm so embarrassed. But it's just so fun. And it's ironic because I hate to perform. So like no one would ever actually, it would be very rare to actually have the chance to hear me sing. Sometime we'll do a karaoke party, but
Oh my gosh, our next gathering, 1,000,000,000%.
there'll definitely have to be some drinking involved, but it's ironic that I was giving these acceptance speeches, but then would not sing in front of people. I don't know how I won those awards.
Oh, that's funny. And it's ironic that you're saying that as a big piano is behind you right now.
Yeah.
Okay. What's one thing on your bucket list? I want to do an Ironman race.
Oh,
That's on my bucket
wow.
list. So I've done.
You're very sporty though. You are a very athletic woman.
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
yeah, and I came to it a little older. But yeah, I've done 6 marathons and I've done some weight competitions, and now I want to do an Ironman. So we'll see. Don't hold me to it, but we'll see. What about you, Anna?
I really want my retirement to be just like going back to school and getting PhDs that I'm just interested in. I have like a list of things that I would just like, if I could just be retired and just get PhDs, that's 100% what I would do. Like, like
Wow, you sound like an academic for sure.
Yeah.
What
And
about
an
you, Anna?
introvert. Yeah. I was going to say that I love to travel in general, but a bucket list wish of mine is to specifically, step foot in all 7 continents.
That's a good one.
Assuming there are still 7 continents. You know how there used to be 9 planets and now there are only 8? But yeah, 7 continents.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you better get to Patagonia like soon.
What about you, Christine?
I don't have a bucket list. So I'm sort of like, this is the adaptable from unattachment. So, but if I could have one question answered,
Mm.
I think I would like to know my biological lineage. That doesn't mean I want to go meet my parents. It means I want to know my biological lineage.
Yeah, that resonates with me too. Okay, and so the final question is, what is a piece of advice that you'd want to share with our audience? For me, I would say, if you haven't already, like, start being completely authentically yourself. Don't be afraid of like discovering who that is, because we spend so much of our lives people pleasing, being told who to be, how to act, all of that. And for me, I was like, yep, I spent decades doing that and I regret that. And the minute I started building the inclusion initiative, surrounding myself with people like you, my people, and being authentically myself, it's the happiest I've been ever. So that's mine.
That makes me so happy for you.
Reclaiming your story. So important for all of us.
I love that.
Thank you. What about you, Anna?
So advice to adoptees
audience.
and to like the audience in the world, or like the audience. Okay.
You can target it to whoever you want. Yeah.
Okay. Similar, I would say, find communities of people, right? So I think that that's a thing that specifically around, this is the first time in my life that I've ever actively sought out a community of Asian American women, or adoptees, or any of the things. So like literally this year, like literally 2024 was the first time ever that I actively sought out like a specifically affinity-based community. And I do a lot of work in women's spaces. I do a lot of work in general equity spaces, but this is the first time that I've been actively involved in an Asian American space. And it really has been transformative. And I think that for a lot of women my age and older, it's not uncommon for this to be a later in life sort of discovery. So I feel really grateful, Grace, that you and some of the people that are in your communities that are younger are coming to it earlier, because I think it's it has borne like such amazing fruit and relationships and so quickly, which I also think is just amazing. So I think the general advice is like, you just ask people, like, and I'm a deep introvert too. So, but it's like people do want to connect, right? Like they do. Everybody says yes. Like almost everybody says yes. Like,
I love that. Thank you. What about you, Leanne?
I was thinking of this one that I feel has served me really well. And it is when I feel fear, I challenge myself to look at what is on the other side of that fear, and meaning what's possible if I can push through the fear, not putting yourself in harm's way or anything. But when I feel afraid or reluctant about something, if I get like a gut feeling, then it's like, this is supposed to help me grow into who I'm supposed to be. And when you can push through fear and build courage and confidence, nothing is off limits for you. So I think, seek the good fruit on the end of the branch, get out there on the limb.
Yeah, it takes courage. I love that. What about you, Christine?
I would say, I mean, this is true for everyone, but I think specifically the community of the Inclusion Initiative, which is remember that everything that you think is wrong or bad about you has a flip side. So abandonment issues, like I have this experience of like a lot of people live by an if-then concept or construct. If I do this, then people will love me and they won't leave.
Mm.
I have I don't have that. I have a when you leave, which sounds really terrible, right? Like no emotional connection, blah, 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 blah. But as an entrepreneur, it's given me incredible power to build a business because I'm not as trapped by my ego being so invested because I'm like, what are you going to do? Leave? Okay.
Yeah.
So remember that everything that occurs as negative has a positive. It's just a matter of finding out what that is and then choosing to relate to that as a strength and a superpower.
Oh, that's very wise.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for sharing that. I really loved hearing from all of you. It's been really special to call you friends. And more than that, it's like I feel like a sisterhood with all of you. And I've met you all once in person.
I know it's so fast. I mean, that's the thing that's crazy, right? Like it really is so fast. And I think that that's just like really beautiful and surprising. And so I think that that is incredibly hopeful, right? Like that's magic. Like that's magical to me.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's almost sentimental what you're saying.
I know.
Yeah, but it really is true. It's what it feels like to be seen and understood and not feeling alone in that experience. So it really has been so beautiful, such a gift.
Absolutely, I agree. And I hope you all let me say this. I hope you all make space for the hard things this Christmas because we need that space. And I hope you have support around you to navigate that. But I also hope that you find lots and lots of joy this Christmas. And it's important to have that too. There's always the balance in life. And for us, that is just inevitably our balance. We're going to have hard moments and really great moments this holiday. And, I want everyone in the Inclusion Initiative community to know that that is okay. And it's valid to feel that way. And you're supported, at least, by us and the community members within the Inclusion Initiative. So with that wraps up our episode. Thank you so much, Christine, Anna, and Leanne for being on with us and just sharing your stories and your wisdom, your insight, your experiences to help others feel seen and heard, and also to help allies understand, our perspectives a little bit better and how they can support us better. So with that, Merry Christmas if you celebrate, and happy holidays, everybody. Thank you.
You all
See you
well.
next time.
Love you, ladies.
I hope you enjoyed the show. please subscribe, share, and follow us. Check out our show notes to know where to find us on social, and our website is theinclusioninitiative.com. If you're an adoptee of color or a foster care alum and you want to join our professional community, it's free, by the way, hit me up via DM, or you can find our email in the show notes. Thanks, everyone. See you next time.